Hey, real quick, we hope you're loving today's episode and we wanted to take a moment to keep you in the loop. If you work in healthcare or you're a healthcare traveler, or you know someone who works in healthcare and is interested in fun adventure travel, you've got to know about our Travsessed Adventure trips. And listen, we get it. Working in healthcare can feel really demanding, overwhelming, and stressful. We spend so much time taking care of others that we forget to take care of ourselves.
So let us take care of you on a Travsessed trip. Once you sign up for a trip, we literally take care of everything. The planning, the logistics, and all the little details. So all you have to do is show up, have fun, and make unforgettable memories with a group of like-minded, adventurous travel friends. This is your time to step away from the chaos, recharge, have some fun, and come back feeling like the best version of you. Everyone who comes on a Travsessed trip says you come as strangers, leave as family. Literally. Travsessed trips have sparked dozens of new friendships, adventure squads, and travel soulmates that last way beyond the trip.
And honestly, it's not about the places we go. It's about the amazing people you meet along the way. We personally plan every itinerary based on our own travel adventures, so we have been there, done that, and know all the best things to do and see that you would not find on your own. Plus, we've got some awesome local friends on the ground to help us make each trip extra fun, special, and totally unique. Our trips are for active adventurers who like to get out of their comfort zones and push their limits. And the best part? We keep our groups small and intimate so you can form real connections like really, really fast.
So if you're ready to ditch the planning stress, find your adventure crew, and travel like never before, head over to imtravsessed.com and grab your spot on one of our next adventures.
That's imtravsessed.com.
Or you can send us a DM over on Instagram at KimandErinG.
That is KIMANDERRANG.
Just DM us the word adventure and we can chat more about it. You can also find our Instagram, our website. Everything is linked in the show notes below. Also, at the time of this recording, we have 3 spots left to join us in Oaxaca, Mexico in 2025, which honestly is one of our favorite trips. Yeah. So you can head over to our website, check that out. And we also have so many more fun adventures coming your way in 2026.
We cannot wait to see you on one of our life-changing trips. Now let's dive back into the episode. Welcome to the Obsessed With podcast. We're your hosts, Kim and Aaron. We've been together since 2007, and we are the co-founders of Travsessed.
And we've also been full-time travelers since 2012.
That's right, crazy.
Which is insane. Join us here as we pull back the curtain with fun, juicy, and honest conversations. We're going to dive into all the things that you might be navigating too, like figuring out how to add more travel and adventure into your life, which PS, this is our specialty, navigating big transitions, relationships, and marriage, deciding whether or not kids fit into the picture in your 40s, and most importantly, how to create a life of freedom on your own terms.
Consider this podcast your official permission slip to unapologetically do life your way and be able to change your mind a million times along the way and know that you are not alone.
Our goal with this podcast is to create a fun, zero judgment, happy hour style space where we can all just hang out, have real conversations, and navigate all the life things together.
So grab a drink, settle in, and let the obsession begin.
Woo!
Welcome back to the Obsessed With podcast. We're your hosts, Kim and Aaron. And in this week's show, we are going to be talking about how we plan our epic trips, but it's hopefully something that you can take away and apply and plan an epic adventure for yourself.
Yeah, we want to share like all of our, because like we have a process, right? So we've been planning personally our own trips for 10 plus years.
Yeah.
And then we've been planning group trips, Travsessed Adventures, for the last 2.5 years. And so I feel like we have a lot of tips and just kind of insider goodies to help other people plan their trips. And this episode was actually requested so many times of just like, how do you plan a trip? Like, what are your first steps? How can I plan like an awesome trip? Blah, blah. And so we're going to basically break it all down in this episode and give you some good takeaways and yeah.
Flight crew, please prepare for departure. So first things I feel why I kind of like this episode is because of the fact that we've been planning group trips. So it's going to sound funny that I'm saying this, but I think it's also why there's so many group trips is because of the fact that people travel like a certain way. They have certain likes, certain dislikes, certain tempos they like to travel, certain places they like to stay, certain things they like to do. And you could be best friends with somebody and not travel well together, right? You could spend almost every waking day with them in the United States, and then you travel and you guys travel totally different. You have different opinions on what food to go to, what to eat, where to go, where to sleep, and so I think it's kind of interesting that travel is a unique fingerprint within itself. And we have gotten, I feel, very good at putting together a group experience that the 90% of the group absolutely enjoys and would travel this way as well, which is why you call in your people.
Yeah, no, I feel like it's kind of like a paint by numbers, right? It's like,
in what way? That's not very unique. Paint by numbers isn't unique.
Yeah. Well, we're giving you kind of a roadmap of like how we plan really cool experiences, but then you can fill it in with what you like to do.
With the colors you want to?
Yeah. Like you choose your own color, choose your own adventure, right?
Okay.
I will say too, our trip specifically, our style of travel. So even whether we're planning a group trip or just like you and I going to travel, our style has always been very similar. So that's kind of where we even based Travsessed Adventures off how we like to travel and the things that we do based off the itineraries that we plan for ourselves. But it's very adventure focused, outdoorsy, hiking, unique, kind of off the beaten path, lots of good food, drinks, just really a mix of a lot of different experiences in that location. And the accommodations are always a mix of really nice places mixed with maybe like a little hut on a beach or
a wooden shed in Thailand, like as we're hiking off the beaten path, right?
Yeah, or like a tent in Peru, right? So we always like a really good mix. If you are listening and you're somebody who wants to go plan a trip like laying on a beach like at a resort, like this is that's not our style. That's definitely not,
especially all inclusive.
Yeah, that's.
Well, you don't really need to
you don't
plan
need to
that.
like think about that. I did want to say too before we get into this is that we have a thing now on the new podcast, which I feel like is really cool. It's called Fan Mail. And I didn't even really know about it. But
it's what I keep saying in the end of the episodes, of like send us a text.
Yeah. So you can text us a question. And so we got a fan mail, which I was like, oh, this is so cool. And I thought that I could just respond back but you can't, which I feel like is kind of lame. You should be able to respond back. But anyways, I wanted to answer the question on this episode, because I just felt like I wanted to be able to respond. So if you ever do have a question for us, if you go to our description, you can click and it will take you to where you can write us a message.
It says send us a text. You click on that and then you can write it in.
Yeah. But she was asking, it was on the episode we did last Tuesday, which was all about working a strike. So if you work in healthcare and you're interested of what that experience is or how you can, get into that, if that's something you want to check out, go listen to that episode. But she had asked that basically if every strike you get your own room or if you have to share. And so basically my answer to that is I'm not 100% sure. I've only done the one, you've done two, but in our experience, you have your own room. And I'm pretty sure in most cases you're going to have your own room. I don't think they're bunking you.
I can tell you there was a entire specific email written on this, that even if Kim and I went to the strike together, Aya, who we went through, was not putting travelers in the same room. Everybody got their individual rooms because it was just easier to put together the package for that. Because if two travelers are like, oh, I don't need a room, and then three are like, no, we're going to bunk up, and then it just gets logistically impossible. So what they said they were doing was everybody got their own room. So Kim and I would have had our own hotel rooms. Whether she decided to stay in it or not would have been her choice. But it wasn't like she could forfeit that per diem and get that, put into her paycheck because she was staying with me, even though you did have somebody that you worked with that had a roommate, which even when you said that, I was like, how did that work?
It wasn't, she was her friend. And so they just chose to bunk together, but they each had their own room.
There you go.
So again, as far as the strike goes, like everyone's going to be different. That's something that you just have to ask ahead of time and kind of get the scoop, because the pay is always going to be different, accommodations, all of it. So just make sure you ask before, you figure that stuff out. But my assumption would be people get their own.
100%. They're not going to bunk you with a total stranger in another hotel room. Like you guys just staying in a room like, hey, you just met, here you go.
Yeah, I don't know. I hope not, but not sure.
Not from 100%. What I sent out. So
okay, so let's get into the episode. Oh, also, like at the time of this recording, tomorrow we are boarding our flight to Bali. It is.
Wait, as of when this comes out, we're gonna miss this entire day.
Wow,
we're gonna be in the air this entire day.
That is so insane. So we leave. So we're currently doing the world's longest route. It's from New York to Singapore, or New York to Singapore. So it's 18 hours. And then we're continuing on Singapore to Bali. And we get to do business class the entire way. We booked this a long time ago. Using points on Singapore Airlines, which was also like a bucket list that we wanted to do. So next Tuesday, this travel episode will share all about that experience.
I will say it is kind of weird that you brought that up, because Tuesday, March 11th, as it stands in the United States, does not exist to you and I.
I don't like that.
But we get it back when we come home. Yes. Yes, to us it does not exist. We board the plane on Monday the 10th, and we land Wednesday the 12th.
Right.
In Singapore. So Tuesday the 11th doesn't exist.
That's freaking weird, dude.
Yeah.
It's like a time warp.
Yeah.
Jeez. All right.
Because they're 14 hours ahead of East Coast time.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm more excited about, no, I'm just kidding. Well, kind of, but I'm more excited about this flying experience than I am about even the trip.
I know.
But that's not true.
But it goes so fast.
Very excited for the trip, but we've been looking forward to this business class. Because again, if you and I were flying 18 hours to Singapore in coach, I would not be excited. I would be like, oh my God, this is going to be, I need all the Benadryl, I need all the wine, I need all the things. But we're flying business, so the whole experience is just fun. And we're flying first from Jacksonville to New York, so we're like kicking off the whole experience. Okay,
and
let's
business from Singapore to Bali.
We're going to get into this next week. So, okay. I'm just excited. So yeah, when you're listening to this, just think of us. We are currently in the air right now, drinking champagne.
Like lay down seats.
Eating strawberries and cream. Don't you feel like that's a very like businessy thing to do?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So let's get into how we plan trips. I think too, like using this trip is such a great example, because we're heading to Bali because we're hosting Travsessed New Zealand. We're hosting Travsessed Bali for Travsessed Adventures, but we're going early and we're doing a research trip. Mm-hmm. Originally, that research trip, we were going to be doing a full-on Indonesia experience, which we'll get into in this episode of why we completely changed gears. And now we're going to be going to Thailand, and we're also going to be doing some Indonesia stuff, but just everything kind of switched. But that gets into the planning process and how we went about planning this research trip, because I'm excited because you and I get to go and have this. We have 2 weeks, just the two of us. We get to go explore somewhere new together, which I'm so excited because we haven't just gone and traveled by ourselves somewhere new in a while. Mm-hmm. So the fact that we get to go do that I'm super stoked about. So we're getting to go somewhere new. So I was planning from scratch from a place of, I don't know what to do or where to go. What is this trip going to look like? But also with the lens of not only just you and I going and doing this trip, but infusing aspects of doing a future Travsessed Adventure, like Thailand trip. So it's kind of all of it mixed together, right?
Yeah. Hey, real quick, we hope you're loving today's episode and we wanted to take a moment to keep you in the loop. If you work in healthcare or you're a healthcare traveler, or if you know someone who works in healthcare and is interested in becoming a traveler, we've created this incredible membership we think you are going to be so excited about. It's called the Travsessed membership app, and it's basically all the best travel resources, insider tips, and built-in travel community right in your pocket, helping you navigate all the ups and downs in this crazy travel healthcare life.
Within the membership, you get monthly Zoom calls and live Q&As with us, as well as access to us via audio message if you need quick advice or support. Plus, you'll also get exclusive discounts to all of our courses and future courses to come, as well as discounts and VIP access to our incredible Travsessed Adventure trips in places like Peru, Bali, and New Zealand. We have packed so much value and fun into this membership, so monthly you'll also get a new travel guide featuring a fresh city or destination and useful travel resources like PDFs, checklists, and bonus trainings to help you navigate life on the road.
And our favorite part, because truly, we are on a mission to create the most badass travel community both online and in real life. With Travsessed, you're not just joining an app, you're joining a family of like-minded travelers who love adventure just as much as you do.
So no more scrolling through endless Facebook groups. This is a safe, private space off of social media, so no trolls.
Thank God.
Where you can connect, swap tips, share stories, and even meet your people in real life at our epic events and trips.
So if you are ready to find your people, travel more, and have all the best resources right at your fingertips, join the Travsessed membership app today at imtravsessed.com. That's IMTRAVSESSED.com. Or DM us app, that's APP, on Instagram at Kim and Aaron G, and we will send you the details. That's at Kim and Aaron G, KIMANDERRANG. We have also linked our Instagram and website in the show notes below for you.
We cannot wait to see you inside of the membership and welcome you as one of our new epic members. All right, now let's dive back into the show.
Well, and I mean, Thailand's a place that we absolutely love. You and I do. We've spent a lot of time there, whether we wanted to or not, just because we got stuck there. But it was like one of those things that's been requested as well, is doing like a Thailand trip. So we're like, dude, we're over there. Let's rock.
Well, and we've gone to northern Thailand, which is amazing, which is more like mountainous and jungles and just absolutely incredible. But we've never gone to southern Thailand. So that's like the Thai islands and the beautiful blue waters and the beaches and the snorkeling and the diving and like the like, I think what people think about when they think of Thailand, like the limestone cliffs, like those huge, beautiful green cliffs coming out of the water. That's the Thai islands. So we're going just to southern Thailand to explore that, with the intention of next year planning a Travsessed Thailand trip, including both the north and the south. So you really get that full kind of landscape
experience. Yeah.
And I feel like we're pros with the north. Like I feel like we've really got to explore that. So, okay. So let me look at my notes, because I did take notes for this episode, because I really want to give you guys some tangible takeaways, and really kind of like, if you're listening to this and you're driving, obviously you can't take notes, but if you're listening to this and you could like write some notes down in your phone or whatever, just some takeaways that if you want to sit and plan your own trip, some things to think about, or just sign up for a Travsessed trip and know we got you.
We got you covered. We're putting all these but I will say that almost the beginning of it, I've been realizing the more and more contracts I take when, that we've been doing Travsessed Adventures, the more and more I realize like how nerdy we are with this stuff and how much we truly enjoy it. Like for instance, the other day the helicopter was landing and it smelled like jet fuel, and I was like in my best. I was like, dude, this is the best day ever. I feel like I'm at an airport. Like I need to go like to a lounge, and people like, that's what.
Wait, where was this?
At work.
Oh, at work. Okay.
It was coming in through the vents, and like I could smell it, and I was like, it just smells like I'm walking to an airport. Like, and they were like, that's what's making me like, I can't stand it, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, there is nothing better than, I don't care how commotion there is. Like, I just love being there. And we also like, an ideal night for you and I is go out to dinner, have wine, come home, and watch YouTube travel videos, whether they're our own or another travel couple on like a place that we've wanted to go or things like that. Like that's an ideal fun night.
Oh, 100%.
Right.
Like this is my dream job. Like planning Travsessed Adventures is my dream job. I used to want to be a flight attendant. Then I wanted to be a travel agent. Like remember what I told you? I was like, I think I'm going to like quit ultrasound and like be a travel agent. Yep. And you're like, okay, cool. Like, I don't know. But it's like, I love planning. I love researching. I like the nittiest, grittiest details. I love to get into it. And then I present you with all that. And then you help me fine tune, and then we go find all the fun stuff to do together on the ground. But it's literally my favorite thing to do, which is great because a lot of people don't like that. They don't like to plan, which blows my mind. I'm like, it's so much fun, but it works out because then people come on Travsessed Adventures.
Well, right. Okay. Exactly.
So I'll say this too, because I wrote a note here, but because us like planning the Indonesia, the Thailand trip. So I think the main difference when we're planning a solo trip, like just you and me versus a group trip, we really plan it the same way as far as what we do. But the biggest change is that when we do a group trip, we usually stay in nicer accommodations.
Yep.
Where when it's just you and me, we've stayed in some basic gnarly places. Like we're not as picky. Like I'm not going to take a group, right, to some of the places you and I would stay at solo.
No, because half the time those don't work. They're good for two people. But again, when you're planning a group trip, you don't want people to have to like hop on a scooter or take a cab to go anywhere. Like you want them to be able to walk around, and most likely those places are the nicer, more expensive places that you and I can hop on a scooter, get a cab, get an Uber, like figure it out. Like it's not that big of a deal, which is nice because that's what usually leads us to local people, which then we become friends with, which then helps us plan even better.
Yeah. Like even like an example of that is like Ubud in Bali for our Bali trip. So we've been there so many times ourselves, and we always stay outside of Ubud in the rice terraces, like in a private villa, which is way cheaper. We've never stayed like in the town, but with our group, we stay at a nice hotel in town. So again, that people can go walk around or grab a coffee or go grab lunch so that they're not, thinking about transportation. So we always think about location and nicer accommodations when it comes to the group versus just us. I will say for the Thailand trip though, you and I did go into it with the intention of, wanting to check out certain properties, thinking it could be good for our group. So I did kind of think about it instead of just staying in these like little family homestays or something. I did go, like I booked more resorty, not resort, but like nicer places.
Cool. I like that.
Okay. So I think like, again, when you are in the beginning stages of planning a trip, okay, the first thing is always to ask yourself, like, where do you want to go? Because again, I think most of us kind of have an idea of the trip that we're planning. But if you don't, and say you're a healthcare traveler and you're like, you know what, I'm going to take a month off. Like, I'm just going to take a month and I want to go plan a trip. Like, I don't know where I want to go yet. I'm not really sure. Because I think too, that can be overwhelming. It's almost like when you have so many choices, you're like, we could go to Europe for a month. We could go to Bali for a month. Like when there's more choices, it almost like overwhelms you.
That's psychology anyway.
Right. So I think it's like asking yourself, like, what kind of trip are you wanting to have? Like, what kind of trip are you looking for? So is it more foodie focused? Is it a hiking trip? Is it a mix of like adventure and maybe some chill time? Is there one part of the world that you're more drawn to right now? Do you want mountains or beaches, hot or cold, city or off the grid? Just
What kind of budget do you have? Because I mean, obviously, if you're running on a smaller budget, but you want to see a bunch of places, then hit Southeast Asia, right? Because don't go to Europe with a small budget wanting to spend a bunch of time.
Yeah.
Right? Because your budget's going to run out quicker.
100%. Yeah. What kind of budget do you have? Remember the episode we did with Adam and Aaron where we actually like helped them plan a trip, and originally they wanted to have this European summer, and by the time we were done, they went to Southeast Asia.
And they came to Bali.
They came to Bali with us, but it was like, okay, cool. Like we get to go to all of these like really beautiful and unique places, and it's way cheaper than Europe, and our money goes further and all of that. So yeah, that's it. So kind of asking yourself all of those questions and really getting a sense of what kind of experience do you want to have. And if you're unsure of where you want to go, this is a good tip. I actually have done this before. So you can type in with quotations into Google or ChatGPT, which listen, ChatGPT is such a great resource, which we'll get into a little bit more. But you can type in with quotations, best underrated adventure destinations with quotes. And again, the underrated, if you're looking for something that's maybe a little bit more like not as touristy or something like that. Or you could type in best hidden gems for foodie lovers, or best place to go for hiking and food. Like kind of once you get a sense of it, you can type these things in and just see what comes up.
I think with quotes is the best.
You got to put the quotes.
Mm-hmm.
You got to put the quotes. Oh, another thing too, if you go on Skyscanner, I've done this before, and you're not completely like fixated on where you're going yet, and you're open, they have I don't know, a thing you can put in that's like anywhere. So you're not putting like Jacksonville to, Rome. It's like you put in Jacksonville to anywhere, or it's anywhere or everywhere. It's one of those, but if you type it, it will pop up and it will actually list out the cheapest flights that they have right now. And you could always base it on some. So if you found like a really great flight somewhere, you could start there. So that could also be something too.
Well, that's how we should find our way home.
Oh, yeah.
On this trip, we should say like Denpasar to anywhere.
We're going to go through Australia though.
Sydney to anywhere, right?
Okay.
And see what pops up.
Yeah.
And try it.
See what happens. Mm-hmm. Okay. That could be fun.
I'm into it.
Okay. But that's like a great thing that you can kind of play with a little bit and just see what comes up. And also, I've done that too, where places have come up and it's sparked inspiration, where I'm like, oh, like what's this? And then I end up researching that area a little bit more too.
Well, and you're going to notice that this episode is very lopsided. That's because planning in our family is very lopsided. And so I come in later. So I'm just the hype man at this point.
Your cleanup crew.
Yeah.
Like I
have things to add. This is your game, dude.
Because I love it so much, and it's where I thrive and it's my happy place. But then I feel like what I do is I lay the groundwork, and then I put in all the time to really get some sort of a game plan. And then I present that to you and kind of go over things, and then you'll fill in stuff with like, okay, let me find like a really cool restaurant or a really cool rooftop bar or like really blah, blah, blah. Like you'll come in and like fine tune it all too.
Well, I mean, if you're looking at my dream, I've always wanted to like plan cool events, right? Like big kind of moments, right? Mm-hmm. Like if it's a introduction to like, or what we talk about is like a retreat style, like putting together speakers, putting together events, putting together wow moments. Like those are like my big thing, like introductions and like big things to get people involved in the feels and things like that. But also the details. I love the details of like, wait, but how are we getting from here to here? And like the time frame of that. And like, how does that look? And so we have our pros and cons, which actually comes out to be a really good strength for both of us.
Yeah, you're so great at all the details and making things special. Like, okay, this is a great example. Our Bali itinerary. Okay, our current like Travsessed Bali trip, the first time we ever ran it, right? So we're going over the itinerary, blah, blah, and you're like, I feel like the last night needs to have this oomph, this like specialist. And you presented, I would love to find a place where we could rent a rooftop. We will get Rizal, who's our favorite musician that we met in Gili Islands. That's just amazing. What if we could get him to come and he could play for our group, and we could have drinks and we could have this and that. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds great, but like I don't think that's going to happen. That seems like too much. And you were like, you know what? Like, let me play with this because I feel like it needs a specialness. It needs like and sure enough, you did it. And that is the highlight of that freaking trip, right?
Yeah.
Like, thank God you didn't listen to me. Thank God you were like, shut your mouth. Let me handle this because that is the coolest night
Found
of the
the
trip.
perfect hotel, the perfect people. We get the entire rooftop to ourselves. They send out memos to the entire hotel saying our rooftop is closed.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah. So you're really good at bringing specialness to things and taking things to another level and elevating an experience. Yeah. Okay. So this is the very first thing that I do, no matter what. And anytime I am looking at a location, I'm always typing it in. So I'll type in, for instance, like top things to do in the Thai Islands. Okay. I like to start there into Google and I look. So now it's like Google is really just bringing up a lot of AI stuff. And so I sort through all of that until I actually find personal blogs. That is what I like. I like to read blogs from other people who have been to these places because that's where you get all this, personal like stories and places to go and things to do from people who have actually been there. And that's my favorite way to gather information because then it's like you dig into that, which for me then leads me somewhere else and somewhere else. And then it's like you start to slowly build out a plan, a trip. But I like to read other people's blogs. So my number one blog that I always begin every search with is Katie and Ben from Two Wandering Souls.
Souls, SOLES.
And they are they're a travel couple. They have 2 kids now, but we travel so similarly. So that's why I love them so much because they're very outdoorsy. They're adventurers. They're hikers. They're big foodies. They love like getting off the beaten path. And like finding unique, more local things to do. They love sustainable travel. So they're such a great go-to resource that if I go to their blog and they haven't been there, I'm like, damn it, because like I love reading their blogs and then taking things from that and starting to piece together our own itinerary. So they are such a great resource. So that's also something to think about too is I like to find blogs of people that travel similarly to me, right?
Totally.
So anyways, I like to start there. YouTube.
Well, I was going to say that's kind of my thing because I'm such a visual person. And so YouTube that's when I said like an ideal night for us is to have wine and after dinner and sit down and pop on YouTube. And we go to Lost LeBlanc or Kara and Nate. Like those are our 2 go-tos. If we find other travel people that we click on and we kind of like vibe with, again, you can't watch videos of people that you don't vibe with or you don't feel like you travel similarly because then it just feels like, well, I don't know if I would really enjoy that. But Kara and Nate, Lost LeBlanc, they do a lot of cool things that Kim and I would want to do. And if even if you're not vibing with the YouTube person, for me to be able to see the actual area we're going to, because YouTube is going to have some travelers who have been to that location, whether it's some crazy location or not, right? There's somebody out there that has been there and filmed it. And so it gives me a sense of what's the traffic like? How are they getting around? What's the vibe? What's the noise level? What's the ease of like, getting around? Like those things visually are so powerful. And then you can place yourself there and be like, dude, I really want to go experience that. And I think YouTube is the number one way that I can get connected to something and then like a location and then really dive in to what they did, where they went to eat, where they were in the city, like how far we need to stay or not stay. Like it's such a good gauge. And you can tell because they'll say like, this was great, but it took us like all day to get here on the train. Well, then it's like, okay, well, we're not staying there. So we don't want to do that. Let's just stay closer. But they were still around this area.
Right. Even so for this new, because I feel like we have YouTubers that we just like, that we like to follow, but then also for the Indonesia research trip and the Thailand research trip, I was actually even putting in like, um, best things to do in like Lipi, whatever, how to get to, right? Because I was trying to figure all of this out and piece it together. And so I was even watching people that I'm like, I don't really care for them. Like, it's a fine video, but it was more of a sense of, okay, what is this like? Is this worth it? Is it not? How do you get from point A to point B? And it gives you that visual aspect too. I'm like, oh my gosh, like this done and done. Like, this is what we're doing. And I wanted to say this too. Nomadic Matt is another great resource. He's definitely a budget traveler.
His book's coming out of like traveling the world for $75 a day.
Yeah, I actually have that, but he's like updating it. So it's like, because it was older, so he's updating it. But he's a budget traveler, and I wouldn't say that we're budget travelers, but he has a lot of great resources, and he helped me make a decision because I kept going back and forth. There's an island in Thailand, Koh Phi Phi, and it's a party island. It's like a young backpacker island, but it's supposed to have, beautiful, like a snorkel tour, like an island hopping tour, blah, blah, blah. But everyone just like, I don't know, like it's beautiful, but it's like,
super touristy.
Yeah. And so I kept going back and forth because between there and like Koh Lipi, which I really wanted to go there, but it's further out and they're supposed to have like the most beautiful waters and this and that. But I kept hearing all these people be like, no, you have to go to Koh Phi Phi. And I was just going back and forth, but my gut was telling me like, it doesn't feel like our vibe. And it also doesn't feel like a vibe I would take a group to because it's like, I don't know, just very young and hostile-y. So anyways, I ended up reading one of Matt's blogs and it was recent. And he was just like, this island is garbage. Like, I despise this island. It is not worth it. Like, you want to go Koh Lantex instead, but I gave all these reasons why, but it just really helped because like I trust him as a traveler and I know he likes more like local off the beaten path experiences and blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, okay, done. Like he helped me make that decision by not being there. And also normally I think that we would probably go to that too. Like, but we don't have that much time. So I had to really be restrictive with what we had to do. And I wanted to spend our time wisely. And so reading that helped me be like, okay, completely crossing that out. And we're going to go to the other islands that I feel like would be a better fit.
Yeah. So it's interesting because a lot of times, like with blogs, they'll say, you take a ferry from Bali to Nusa Penida, right? And like they'll list that out and here's the ferries to go through. But like on YouTube, they're actually filming the ferry. So then you get to see what the seats are like. How rough was it? Like, I know obviously it can change, but it's like when you get that visual aspect to like what a blog might say, just like take the ferry, it's 2 hours or 3 hours or whatever. And then you get off and you go to the port, blah, blah, blah. Like for me being able to see like, is there bathrooms on board? Is this like some crazy jam-packed boat that like it's miserable, right? You want to be able to prepare yourself. And I feel like YouTube gives you that visual to do that.
I want to talk about Chat GPT for a second. Because so here's the thing with Chat GPT. I think it's a great resource to get you going. So I'll use that in conjunction with blogs, okay? Because it leads me down other avenues. I also think it's great for logistics. Okay, so first, as an example, you could put into Chat GPT, like most beautiful hike in this area, or private kayaking experience in this area, or best rooftop place to watch the sunset and to have a glass of wine. Like you can be so specific with Chat GPT.
Within walking distance of my hotel.
Right. Which I love. Like best cooking, like family owned cooking class, right? Like you can really be specific with it, fun things to do in the area. And so I'll do that and it gives you a lot, right? And so then I'll start like sifting through what it's giving me and researching more to be like, oh, like actually this was super cool or this was not, right? But it does really spit out a lot of great information. Also, I had it do help me. So logistics, it's great for logistics. So I'm like, how do I get from, Koh Lanta to Koh Lipi, right? And it gives me like, okay, you're going to go to this pier and take this boat and the ferry is this long. And then you're going to get off here. And like, it literally gives you such great detail. So it's great for helping you with logistics. I even was like, once I knew where we were going, I'm like, can you plan me a 10-day itinerary to these islands with logistics, with traveling, doing these things? And it like spit it out. And then I took that and I used that to help coordinate what we were going to do. And then it was like, what are the best resorts to stay at that are, nice and on the ocean and have restaurants and are walkable in this area. And then it gave me like 3 choices. And then I went through so it like really can help you. It can help you whittle things down.
Mm-hmm.
So it really is a great resource, but I wouldn't use it. Like I would never be like,
oh, this is what it said. This is what I'm doing.
Plan my itinerary. Mm-hmm. You have to know. You already have to have the ideas of what you want to do. And then it can help you break it all down and get clear. Like it even, we're doing a island hopping thing in one of the islands. And so I was like, what is the best locally owned private island tour, blah, blah, blah. And it gave me a couple of different options. And so I personally reached out to 3 people that it recommended. And then through speaking with them, I chose who we were going to go. You know what I mean? So it's really, it's really a great resource,
mm-hmm.
but you have to go into it knowing that, don't do like, what are the top things to do? Plan me an itinerary. It's going to be super generic,
mm-hmm.
right? Another thing is Airbnb experiences. Mm-hmm. This is another really cool thing that you can find a lot of unique experiences in the area, and they're hosted by local people. Mm-hmm. So we found, when we did our Travsessed Greece, I wanted to find something unique
and local.
I really wanted to do a cooking class, but I couldn't find any places that could accommodate a group of, I think there was like 12 of us or 13 or something. And so, but I randomly found this lady who did these beautiful sunset picnics, and she did them for couples. So she had never done anything for a large group, but I reached out to her and I'm like, hey, we're bringing a group. This sounds right up our alley. It's wine, it's food. It's in like a place that's away from, like, if you've ever been to Santorini, like where you go watch the sunset is crowds of people. It almost like takes away from the beauty of it. So she goes to a place that there's nobody else there. It's such a cool experience. And so that led me to working with her. And then she planned this incredible picnic for both of our groups. And that was one of my highlight experiences.
That was one of the group's highlight experiences.
Yeah.
I mean, we were all out there just hanging out by ourselves, beautiful picnic. I mean, everything you could think of was there.
Yeah.
Like more wine than we can drink. We ended up taking the wine back to the hotel.
Yeah.
Like the food was incredible. Like utensils and music. And I mean, it was a vibe. Stunning.
Absolutely beautiful.
Candles. I mean, it was great.
Mm-hmm. And Airbnb experiences breaks things down into categories. So you have like food and wine, you have, adventure hiking. So you can, if you're looking for something specific, you can click those different categories and you can browse. Mm-hmm. And I love that it's always like a local person too, which is super cool. So food tours, like all of that you can find through Airbnb experiences. So I think that's such a great, and it can also give you ideas. If you're like, gosh, I don't really know what to do. I'm not even looking for something specific, but you just want to browse and kind of see what options there are. That can spark some inspiration too, which I think is cool. I did want to hit on this too. Why? Because it's in this research phase, why we switch from hardcore Indonesia to the Thailand. Because so in this research phase, you start to really find your flow with a trip. And originally we wanted to do a full-on Indonesia trip, and so we always do our Bali trip, but we were thinking like we wanted to go to Flores and we wanted to go to Java and we wanted to do like hiking volcanoes and adventure and different things. And so the more I was researching, the more I was like hitting roadblocks.
Mm-hmm.
And Flores is not really developed for tourism. I mean, it is, but it's not like a Bali or something, obviously, which is part of the charm.
Mm-hmm.
And so, anyways, long story short, I felt like I kept trying to force this trip, and I kept coming to you and being like, "What do you think?" And
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, you're not even really giving me any. I don't.
Right. You weren't giving me anything. I could feel the roadblock, and I just felt like we would be spending more time trying to figure things out rather than experiencing. It just didn't seem like, and then I was like, well, that's a good deciding factor to the fact of if you had 15 people that we were leading and like we're running into those kind of issues, like this might not be the way we should do it, or the group trip needs to be reimagined because you can kind of feel it. If you're like, dude, I don't know how we're even going to get there.
Right. And everything was so far. So it was like, this is a 4-hour drive. This is a 6-hour drive. And I think it's a great trip for you and I. But for a group trip, I was like, I don't know. I have to be there to see it. We didn't have anybody on the ground there helping. And anyways, I kept hitting this wall. And it was like something in me was just like, I think there's another route, which then kind of led us to the Thailand. And then once I got into the research phase of that, I was like, boom, boom, boom. Like it was all coming together. And so I feel like you can kind of tell when something just like, it may seem like this great idea in the beginning, but when you get into the research, you start to realize like, oh, maybe this isn't what I thought. And that's okay too, to shift gears and like go a different route, which is what happened with this trip.
I will say too, when it comes down to planning, there's a lot of differences in people in the way that I don't believe, one, because we've never done it, but I would never take 48 hours just to get somewhere on like a bus and a train that I could fly. Mm-hmm. Right? Like,
because we're not budget.
And I'm also like, my time is very valuable, mm-hmm. right? Like if it's about the experience, I'm into it, right? Mm-hmm. If the experience is the train, mm-hmm. Then I'm in. Yeah. It doesn't matter how long it takes, right? If that's the experience. Mm-hmm. But like, if you're just saying, I want to go to Flores, and it's going to take us 24 hours. We have to go somewhere. Then we have to like stay. Then we have to figure out a van. And then we have to go here. And I'm like we have a limited amount of time. One, I wouldn't do that with a group of people. And two, just for myself, like, how can we fly there? Like, how can we get there? Right. And if that is something that's super the only way to get there, well, then fine. Right. You develop that out and you figure that out. But I think like trying to just push something to the core.
It just was,
it's like, no.
Yeah. And that's happened before with other trips where we're like, I just don't think this is like clicking. And we switch it up. I will say though, that we're going to focus on Thailand, which again, that completely opened up once mm-hmm. that ball got rolling, which was funny because I kept having this voice in the back of my mind. I was like, what if you did like Southern Thailand? Because flying from Bali to Thailand is so close. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, no, you can't do that. That's like ridiculous. Like you're staying in Indonesia. You want to see more of Indonesia. So I kind of like silenced it. But then I kept coming back and I'm like, actually, this is not that crazy. It's like right there. We freaking love Thailand. And then I did a poll on our Instagram story of like, who would be interested in a Thailand trip, which multiple people have already said it in the past before. And then like so many people were like, oh my gosh, yes. It's all like, dude, like, let's do it. Like this feels, and it's like always following the path of fun. I'm like, this feels like way more fun than this Indonesia thing that we were trying to force. But we're going to focus on Thailand. But when we get back from New Zealand, we are still going to fly to Flores and go to the Komodo National Park, because that was really the highlight for me anyways that I wanted to do, which is like this beautiful area in Flores that is known for snorkeling and diving and islands and just beauty. So we're going to go do that and then plan an actual either Komodo Island National Park, like live aboard experience, or Raja and Pop, whatever, one of those. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of what it then became.
Yep.
Okay. And maybe in the future we'll plan another
Totally.
more Indonesia specific trip, but it just didn't feel right this time with what we had available.
Totally.
Also, there's like hardly any, there's not a lot of like guides or blogs even on it, which maybe we should create some, because I feel like there wasn't a lot of it. There wasn't a lot of even information.
Done.
So
that's fun.
Something to think about. Okay. So I think
we've kind of talked about this, but we can briefly go through it. It depends.
The transportation.
Yeah. It really depends on the way you plan as well, because sometimes, like, for instance, you can bring up Italy, right? Like, you can take trains pretty much everywhere, but then we realized, like, you couldn't take a train into the Dolomites, and we really wanted to go to the Dolomites. So then it was basically like, let's get our international driver's license, which you can get at AAA in the US, and it's good for a year, and it's super easy to get. And if you're a AAA member, it's even cheaper. And we got that, and then we rented a car and got to, like, drive through Italy, and it was absolutely beautiful. We've driven through South America. We've driven through Italy. Where else? Like, lots of places, right? New Zealand. We've rented cars, and those are like the experience of it, right? But you can also, like, if you're in Europe, you can bounce around on trains, right? You don't have to take a flight every time. Like, getting on the train and being able to see the countryside. Kim and I also, one big thing that's different from a group as well is, Kim and I are big walkers. We notice that we find a lot of our hidden gems from walking to and from dinner, to and from, one of our activities is literally no plans for a day and just walk around and see what we can stumble into. Because when you're passing by something, it's really hard to tell what it is until you're actually walking by. You can stop, you can look, you can read, and, you start talking to local people, and you get a sense of things, even in, like, cafes or restaurants. Like, people start talking to us. Hey, where are you guys from? Blah, blah, blah. And, like, it's really cool to get the insider tips like that from somebody that is not in tourism.
Yeah, 100%. I think, just circling back to the transportation really quick, because I think this is the biggest hiccup for a lot of people when you're trying to plan the trip, is like the logistics of the transportation. And honestly, that's even with planning group trips. That's always the thing of, like, okay, how are we going to get ourselves, our group, from here to here to here, right? And so that's always part of the foundation of, like, we always have to partner with somebody on the ground in the country, because then they help us with the logistics and the transport. It's always a thing. So I think it's like, again, wherever you're going, looking into that. Are you in a city? Is it walkable? Or is there a train? Are you going to rent a car? And really knowing that ahead of time, because that's super helpful. There's also an app called Rome to Rio. Rome with number 2, Rio. And that's a great app, because you can put in, so say you're putting in Rome in Italy to the Dolomites, it will give you the route of what you need to do to get there. It's awesome. So I think that's a great resource too, to help you plan it. And I think that's really it. I think too, like, when you can drive, Argentina, I feel like if you do rent a car, it does open up so many opportunities.
Yeah. I mean, there was an option to take a bus, and the bus is a bunch of people, and we took a bus from Puerto Natales to Argentina, which was great, because whatever, you can rent a car, but it was nice for that because of, like, getting there. But then from the bus, we went to the main town, and we actually rented a car and drove in, because then we could take our time. We could explore. We could stop. We could take pictures. We could stop for Kim's pottying anytime she needed to. And that was actually more of the experience than I thought, right? Because being able to pull over and just be in these beautiful places, take pictures, like, stop, like, just take in the scenery was absolutely amazing. And we saw all the buses driving by full steam ahead, like, on a schedule. And it was like, dude, you kind of missed the whole thing, because that drive is actually the experience.
100%. If you can pay a little bit more to have your own wheels and not have to be on a schedule, like, that the buses were going by, I'm like, you guys missed the entire point here, like, and so I always think that's a great idea. I wanted to get into, like, the food a little bit.
Yeah.
So just really quick, because I wanted to, we're almost there. Oh yeah, we're almost there. Okay. We're huge foodies. Like, for us, like, when we go travel, food is a huge part of what we love to do. And experiencing, learning about the culture through food. Like we infuse that into our personal trips, into all of our group trips, because it's the best way, in my opinion, to really connect with local people and learn about their history and all the things. And it's just,
100%.
we freaking love to eat. Dude.
If you actually do love food and you actually realize that the majority of food really tells the story of the history and the culture of the people there. And people are always more willing to share their stories around food. It just is what it is. It's the way of the world. It's the way it's always been, right? And so we happen to love food and love food experiences so much and really focus around that. And I think like with that being the center of where we're kind of focusing a lot of stuff on, it has opened up so many doors just through food.
Oh, 100%. I think so. Going back to researching, right? It's the same kind of thing with like, but specifically looking up food bloggers and like foodie things specifically. So if you're searching in Google, like you're looking for specific food blogs. And so there's a show called Someone Feed Phil.
Well, you said it right.
I know. I almost said Someone Eats.
No.
I always call it Someone Eats Phil, but Someone Feed Phil. It's on Netflix. And he just goes around and basically just finds like the best places to eat and meets the locals. And it's a great show. But anytime we go somewhere, we always look to see if he has an episode. And we have gone almost everywhere that we've gone, that he's gone, we have gone to the places he's recommended and have always been like, holy crap, dude. Amazing. Next level, good food, like local experiences. I think that's how we planned our entire Oaxaca trip, was like through that episode.
It is. You know what? Like I fell in love with his guide there, Omar, who was absolutely like his personality and the stories that he had, that he was telling Phil, and the places he took them to. You could tell they weren't necessarily touristy. They were like behind the scenes touristy. Like all the tourists were walking around. Then you're like, oh, is it just because it's Phil? And I literally paused the episode, looked at Kim, and I said, he put up his, they said, Omar from Oaxaca. And that was his Instagram. And I was like, reach out. Like, see if he's too much of a celebrity for us, but like maybe he'll work with us. Like, and we could like plan a trip around it. Sure enough.
Well, he does. They do food.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Sure enough, they did food tours. And like we were able to like partner with his team. And like that has completely changed the game of our Oaxaca trip, is just through him and the local experiences that we've gotten after tours because of him, and just how much fun he is and his employees and the people that work with him. Oh my God. It's like a second family now.
Yeah. It's such, that is like one of my favorite trips because of that.
Yeah. And it all started because somebody feed Phil.
100%. And so also too, if you're searching specifically, so like, best, wine bars in Barcelona, like looking for those things specifically, the blogs, right? But being specific, or like best pizza places in Rome, whatever, but like being really specific and like gathering a list of different places. Also, we talk about this all the time, but we always book a food tour first, like within either the first or the second day. And we do that because we love food and we get a lay of the land with the city. We get to work. We like to do a private food tour as well. If you book with the locals, is always an option. It's always private, and you get to pick your guide based off personality and like different things. But you get to be with a local person, ask them a million questions, go to cool places. And I always get a list. I'm like, okay, listen, we're here for 3 days. Like, where would you take your best friend if they came to town? Where do you take your mom? Whatever. Like, not the tourist spots, but like, where would you go with your friends? And I always make a list in my phone of like all these different places. And then you and I will spend our rest of the time like, okay, let's go try this place that he recommended. And it's just such a great way to like pick a local's brain and get a good list of stuff.
Totally. We found that in Rome, and it literally changed the game with Arturo. And then I ended up, we literally were flying back from, where were we flying back from? Oh my gosh. Greece.
Yep.
We were flying back from Greece, and we found out the flights were way better if you fly from Greece to Rome, home. So we're like, dude, we're in Rome. let's spend a night there and just go eat some cool stuff. And literally ran into Arturo on the street.
Yeah.
And he was like, what? Like big hug. Like it was just really, it's like we knew somebody. It was just really cool to randomly, did not talk to him, did not reach out to him.
In years. Yeah.
And saw him. And it was just like so much fun.
Yeah. I think, we talked about this a little bit. We always talk about this, but just the more you can put yourself out there and meet and mingle with local people and ask them questions. So we also will book like a walking tour, right? Because that's a great way to get a lay of the land with the city. You're with a local, you get to ask them questions. The more you can do that, I feel like honestly, that's how we have found so many cool experiences, is really from just talking with local people, like asking them questions. Like we're at a bar, we start chatting. Like that is where, because you can Google and you can chat GPT and you can do all the things. But honestly, that is where, like, once you are on the ground and once you're, like in the city or wherever you are, that, and you start talking and opening up, like at a coffee shop or whatever, like, or even, the local people are great, but even meeting other travelers that you meet in a coffee shop, like, where have you guys gone, blah, blah. Like that is where you start to really kind of get some hidden gems or some places that you didn't find.
Well, and I think this is a good question for people that are listening currently, and they might have this in their heads of like, well, if I'm planning a trip, how am I going to know that if I'm on the ground with a local? Well, I can tell you, Kim and I always know this is going to happen. And so we always bookend our trip with like 2 or 3 days of unplanned activities. The entire day is open, and we might have like a lunch place we want to hit or something like that. But it's all subject to change because we know we're going to meet locals on the ground, and those locals are going to give us a different place that we never researched and that we never knew existed, and we're going to go there instead. And then that opens up a whole nother level of things. Like even in Greece, when we went to the restaurant, come to find out the waiter was a famous blogger in the area.
Oh, yeah.
And he was like, oh, no, don't go with this boat. Go with this boat because they do more of a local, like, amazing tour, and they go to different places that the other boats don't go to. And this is why you want to go with them. Yeah. And so we went and talked to them and ended up changing our boat and had the best time with the coolest group of people.
Yeah.
And then we planned our Greece trip around that because of the fact of that experiences that we were going to do because we found on Google, but a local told us not to.
Yeah. I mean, even look at G'day. I mean, G'day is our guide. He's not our guide. Like, he's our friend. Like, he's our family, but he is like our guide in Bali, and he does everything with us in Bali. Like, he, helps us coordinate everything. He drives us. He's like the glue that holds the Travsessed Bali together. And we met him in 2016 and just always stayed in touch. And he's just become such a great friend. And we have done so many cool things. I mean, even us, like, we're flying to Bali tomorrow, or like you're listening to this, we're on our way there. We're going to his village to stay with his family in his village at, like, it's not like touristy, like it's like in the north.
No, they touch our faces because they haven't seen tourists.
And he invited us into his home, and we get to spend Yippee Day, which is a holiday that the Balinese celebrate. And it's like everything is quiet. It's a silent day. But they do, leading up to it, they do parades and festivals and all this. So, like, we get to go have that experience with, like, him and his family. Like, that's freaking amazing. That's something, like, you would never be able to do, right?
No. Our group has gotten to go to Balinese weddings. We've been to funerals. We've done, like, we've been able to do so many cool things because of him, and because he's run 5 trips with us, he's starting to get it too. And what's fun is we've told him things that, like, he's like, wait, like, I didn't know that existed, or I didn't know that place existed. But he is just being there and being able to answer questions from our group and answer questions from us and be able to teach us about the local. It's just a different level.
I mean, Bali is, like, cool, but it's his insight and his wisdom and him teaching and him sharing about the culture and all, like, that's what makes it so special, right? So, like, that is the biggest pro tip I have. Like, that is find local people, talk to them, ask them questions. They love to share. Do the walking tour, do the food tour, just do a cooking class, like anything like that, where you could go and like actually to go talk to people, make a list in your phone and just freaking go. Like, and then this is like super, but like I create a Google Drive on my computer. So I have like millions of tabs of like Indonesia and Bali and Rome and Italy or whatever it is. And I started Google Drive and I just start to put down lists of things, and it might be all over the place, but I'll have like restaurants, and then I'll have like a list. I'll have like rooftop bars. I'll have a list. And anything that I'm like learning, I'm reading on a blog or whatever, I just put into my Google Drive, and like I start to build something. And then I go back to it. I'm like, I'm going to take this out. Oh, okay. And then I start to rearrange it, but just like have a place that you dump all of the things, because it's like, I used to just like send myself a blog, or I would copy and paste something. And like, I felt like all this stuff was all over the place, but now everything I need is in this one Google Drive. And then that helps me like organize and bring it all together. But I always have a list of all of the things, even like how to get here, how to do this. I do that for our group trips. I also just do it for us too. And like, the distance to things, I think, is like, I always write that down. It's like, okay, this is going to be a 3-hour drive, or this is a train ride, whatever it is. I just kind of like piece it all together. So as organized as you can be, I think super helps. And then lastly, this is super important too, is like, you want to have a plan, right? Because I think it's important. It's like, you want to, like, even with our Thailand trip, right? I know what islands we're going to. I know the things that I definitely want to do, right? An experience with you and all the things. But also, we're just going in and we're going to be spontaneous and like see, once we get there, did we meet somebody that told us to go here or go here, whatever, and just just go walk around and get a lay of the land. So it's like, have a plan, have like the top things like, you want to do, right? You want to eat at this restaurant, you want to do the island tour, whatever it is, but then also leave it open to be spontaneous and flexible, because those are always our best experiences, when we're just like, we weren't even planning on this.
Well, and that's what I was saying, is whenever I was answering that question of like, how do you meet the locals? And like, we were saying that like meeting the locals is what opens these things up. And it's because of these flexible days that ends up like, and we do them early on. What we've realized is a lot of times we'll meet some local people towards the end of our trip and they're telling us where to go. And that's one reason why we've done food tours on the last day and have regretted the shit out of it. Because we're walking by and they're like, oh, if you ever get a chance, you got to go check this place out. And we're like, oh my God, like we don't have enough time to go do that. And so like, we really book flexible days at the beginning. And try to like explore and be spontaneous and see what we get into. Because those, like you said, have been my most favorite days.
I will say too, I think that's the biggest difference between you and I just going alone versus a group, right? Because on a group trip, it's definitely more, it's planned, right? There's an itinerary because we're a group of, 12, 14 people. And so we have things specifically planned because we want people to get the most out of their time. We build in free days so people can go and explore on their own or have spontaneous days or whatever. But like, the trip is planned and structured. There's not a whole lot of like, let's see what we get into today, guys. Like, it's already done. When it's you and I, and this is what I love too, is that, because coming back to even how we plan a group trip, is that we do all of these steps that we've talked about in this episode, right? And so we've done all of this leading up to this moment where we are now flying to go to Bali, to then go on to Thailand, to really get a feel for this trip, right? And so because we won't plan a trip unless it's like a hiking trip or something like that we haven't done ourselves, because we have this vision of the Southern Thai islands, but we really don't know until we're there. So we kind of take everything we've learned, we get on the ground, and then you and I go do all the things, and we walk around and we find the hole in the walls, and we find the locals and the hidden gems and all the things. And then we take that and we're like, okay, like, this wasn't worth it. This was amazing. This food, we have to go here. This beach sucked, but this one was like, we kind of take everything and we experience it ourselves to then take that to then build an experience for the group.
No, totally. And I'll even say too, like down to, you can't be very spontaneous with a group of like with 15 people. You can't just pop into a restaurant and be like, So there's 17 of us,
Yeah.
and they're like, no.
Yeah.
Like they're not like the United States where it's like, oh, okay, like we'll make room. I mean, even in the US, if you have 17, so you can't just like barge in. Plus, like there's some restaurants that like Kim and I really love that they cook one meal at a time. So you throw 17 people in there, you're sitting there for 3 to 4 hours. And like, so it might be an amazing food experience, but it's not a food experience for a group. So then it just goes into our list of like, on our off days, if you have a chance, go into this restaurant with maybe 1 or 2 people and go and experience it, because we can't do it as a group, but it is worth it. Right. And so being able to see that for ourselves and be able to evaluate, dude, we could barge in here with a group. This would be really cool. Like, or no, this is a really good experience. Let's just put it in the itinerary for people if they want to experience it on their own.
100%.
Right?
Yeah. And so I'm excited. I think, again, we could go on and on and on. This is definitely like our expertise. If you have any specific questions, feel free to DM us at Kim and Aaron G. That's always a great place to connect with us. Or you could use the fan mail.
Fan mail. You've got mail.
Just know we can't personally respond to you, but we will answer it on an upcoming episode. But always DM us. We love talking about planning trips. We love planning trips, obviously, and even just giving any insider tips or things that we know to do in certain areas if you're going. And I'm really excited to go and research a new trip with you.
I know.
And just go, because we're going to research it. So technically it's quote unquote work to plan a future trip.
Oh man.
I know. I'm like, oh, it's such hard work, someone's got to do it. But we get to go somewhere new. We get to be like the travelers again. And like, where do we end up? And what is it like? And I'm just like really excited to share this experience with you, to eventually be able to share with the Travsessed community and creating a really cool Thailand trip. So make sure to follow along with us. We're going to be sharing everything on Instagram.
Yep.
So follow along with us there at Kim and Aaron G. And I think that's it for now, right?
Yeah,
is there anything else you want to add?
We need to go cook dinner.
We got to go cook dinner. It's our family night tonight, our last night in Florida, cooking dinner and bed. And I'm so excited to spend 18 hours on a plane. I
cannot wait.
So freaking excited.
It's like, I'm so excited, but I also want it to like never stop.
Oh, I thought let's not rush this. I feel like I've been thinking about this for months, man. Mm-hmm. So again, next week, we're going to kind of deep dive and share a whole experience with that.
We'll
how
also
we
have
use points and all that.
We'll also have a reel too about our Singapore Air experience, because we have flown Emirates as well. Mm-hmm. And so it will be a comparison to the two, and we'll see how Singapore holds up. I've heard really good things, and we get to go to the Singapore airport, which I've always wanted to go to.
Hell yeah, I forgot about that. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm so excited. We will see you guys over on Instagram. Thank you for listening. Please leave this a review and share this with a friend, somebody that maybe you want to plan a trip with. Yep. Share it out. We appreciate you, and we will see you guys on Instagram.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode, and we hope that you really, really enjoyed it.
And if you did love this episode, can you please do us a huge favor and just share this with one of your friends? Like, just somebody that you think will get value from this episode. It would mean so much to us.
Yeah, like do it now. Like while you're inspired, go now.
Like right this second. Yeah, go. Or just like share it on your Instagram story and tag us at Kim and Aaron G so that we can see it, and thank you personally for helping us share this message, share this episode, and blow this baby up.
Yeah, help spread the obsession.
Ooh.
You can do that.
Let's get obsessed.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Thank you so much. We are so grateful to be on this journey with you, and we will see you next week.
Bye.